My child, I need you to stop for just a moment. Please, just breathe. I know exactly how heavily your heart is beating right now. I know how entirely exhausted you are, not just in your physical body, but deep within your spirit. You have been running on empty for so long, trying with all your might to hold the fragile pieces of your life together. You have been trying to wear a brave face for the world around you, pretending the weight is manageable. But here with me in this quiet space, you do not have to pretend anymore. You do not have to be strong right now. You do not have to hold back the heavy flood of emotions you have been carefully hiding behind closed doors. I see you. I see those quiet moments when the weight of it all becomes entirely too much to bear, when the silence of your room feels heavier than concrete pressing against your chest. I have been there with you in the darkest, most lonely hours of the night, when sleep completely refuses to come, when your mind races with worry and your chest tightens with an anxiety that takes your breath away. I have seen every tear you thought fell unnoticed. I saw the ones you quickly wiped away in the car, staring blankly through the windshield before forcing yourself to walk into work. I saw the ones that mingled with the warm water in the shower, hidden away, so no one else in your home would know you were quietly breaking apart. I have caught every single one of those tears. Not a drop of your pain has escaped my notice. They are precious to me because you are precious to me. I am not distant from your suffering. I am not watching your struggle from a throne somewhere far away, disconnected from your reality. I am sitting right beside you, in the very center of your grief. You have been carrying a tremendous burden that was never meant for your shoulders. I know all about the financial struggles slowly suffocating your peace. I see the numbers in the bank account that make your stomach drop into emptiness. I see the stacks of bills that seem to multiply overnight, and I feel the terrifying uncertainty of how you are going to make it through the coming month. You have worked so hard to build a life. You have tried to do the right thing, to be responsible, to provide for those you love, and yet it feels like the ground is constantly shifting and collapsing beneath your feet. It feels incredibly unfair. I understand the deep frustration, the quiet anger, and the overwhelming helplessness that washes over you when you look at all you have lost. You feel as though your earnest efforts have been met with nothing but closed doors and sudden storms. But I know it is not merely the finances breaking your heart. I see the broken relationships that have left you feeling utterly hollow and deeply betrayed. I know the sharp sting of harsh words that can never be unsaid. I feel the aching, echoing void of an empty space that used to be filled by someone you loved and trusted completely. You gave your heart loyalty and precious time, only to be left quietly picking up the shattered pieces of a bond you believed would last a lifetime. The rejection, the misunderstanding, the sudden deafening quiet, where there once used to be laughter. I feel the exact depth of that ache. I know how much it hurts to look at the fragmented remains of those connections and wonder if you did something wrong, or if you will ever feel whole and secure again. And then, my child, there are the shattered dreams, the hopeful visions of the future that you held so closely to your heart. I see how they have crumbled into dust right in front of your eyes. You planned carefully, you prayed fervently, you waited patiently, and you believed with all your might. But instead of a breakthrough, you experienced a profound and devastating collapse. It feels as though the beautiful life you were supposed to have has been violently stolen from you. You look around at the gray ashes of your deepest disappointments, at the rare opportunities that seem to slip right through your fingers, and a terrifying, poisonous thought has begun to take root in your weary mind. I hear the dark whisper of fear that torments you in your most vulnerable, unprotected moments. It is the insidious voice telling you that your best, most vibrant days are permanently behind you. It is a heavy dread trying to convince you this loss is your end. You are being told that your current situation is irreversible, that the damage to your life is permanent, that you are forever destined to live out the remainder of your days, settling for a broken, diminished, and colorless version of the life you once passionately hoped for. You are looking at the absolute devastation surrounding you and thinking this must be your final reality. You feel entirely disqualified from future joy. You feel as though your season of blessing has abruptly passed you by, leaving you permanently stranded in a barren wasteland where nothing beautiful will ever grow again. But listen carefully to the gentleness in my voice right now. Feeling broken does not mean you have been abandoned. The world may demand that you quickly bounce back, hide your fresh scars, paste on a smile, and move on, as if nothing happened. But I do not operate like the world. I am the God who draws intimately near to the brokenhearted. I actively save those who are crushed in spirit. I am not standing above you with crossed arms, impatiently tapping my foot, waiting for you to fix yourself, so I can finally love you again. I am right here in the dirt with you. I am sitting beside you in the very ashes of what you have lost. Before we even speak of tomorrow, before we discuss what comes next, or how we will rebuild, I just want you to feel my comforting presence wrapping around you like a warm, heavy blanket. I want you to know, deep in your bones, that your current state of physical and emotional exhaustion does not disqualify you from my grace. It is perfectly okay to be tired. It is deeply necessary to grieve what was suddenly taken from you. You never have to perform for me. You do not have to put on a rigid mask of perfect, unwavering faith when your heart feels like it is bleeding out. Bring your honest doubts to me. Bring your confusion. Bring your quiet anger. Bring your absolute bone-deep exhaustion, and lay it all carefully in my open hands. Let me hold the weight of it for you. You have been carrying this unbearable sorrow for much too long, and your spirit is weary from the heavy labor of holding back the flood. Just rest your weary head against my shoulder. I validate every ounce of your pain. Your grief is not an overreaction. It is the natural response of a tender heart that has loved deeply and lost greatly. I am not dismissing your circumstances with a quick fix, nor am I rushing you through this sacred valley of sorrow. True healing cannot be hurried, and I want to tend to the deepest wounds of your soul with a gentleness that the world simply cannot offer. I want to sit with you in this quiet space until the frantic beating of your anxious heart begins to slow and sink with mine. Allow my love to create a safe harbor for you in the midst of your raging storm. You do not need to figure out the future today. You do not need to solve the impossible equations of your life right now. All I ask is that you allow me to be near you. Let your defensive walls slowly lower. Give yourself the profound grace to simply exist in my presence, without striving, without planning, and without pretending. You are profoundly loved, deeply understood, and fiercely protected, even when everything around you feels wildly out of your control. Rest securely in this truth. Let the tense muscles in your shoulders drop. Take a deep, unsteady breath and release it into my care. We will face tomorrow when tomorrow comes. But for this beautifully quiet moment, just know that you are not walking through this agonizing valley alone. I am here. I have always been here. And as you let my peace begin to settle over your exhausted spirit, I want you to know that the desolate landscape you are currently staring at is not the end of your story. The illusion you are looking at is about to change. The enemy has worked exceptionally hard to convince you that this is the final chapter. He has taken your current pain, your visible setbacks, and the heavy silence of this waiting season, and he has painted a masterpiece of despair. He wants you to believe with absolute certainty that the book of your life has abruptly slammed shut, leaving you permanently defined by this single plot twist. He whispers in the quiet hours that the doors that closed are locked forever, that the resources you lost are gone for good, and that you are entirely stranded. But I need you to understand that you are looking at a mirage. You are staring at an elaborate illusion of finality, specifically designed to make you surrender your hope. I know exactly how agonizing it is to watch the calendar turn while your circumstances remain frozen. You see the weeks and months slipping away, and you feel a rising, frantic panic that time is rapidly running out. You watch others around you stepping into their seasons of harvest, celebrating victories, and moving forward, while you feel trapped in a perpetual winter. That isolation breeds a very specific kind of quiet agony. It creates a deep vulnerability in your soul, where your mind begins to suggest that perhaps I have simply forgotten about you. It makes you wonder if your prayers hit the ceiling and bounce back, or if you somehow disqualified yourself from the very promises you have been holding on to. You sit in the stillness of your room, looking at the remnants of what used to be, and you feel an overwhelming sense of abandonment. I hear those heavy thoughts echoing in your mind, and I feel the tremendous grief they cause you. But my dear child, human timelines and my divine calendar are vastly different. You measure time by the relentless ticking of a clock and by the urgent deadlines the world demands. You look at your age, your bank account, and your remaining energy, and you frantically calculate how much time you have left to turn things around. I do not operate within those frantic human constraints. I am not intimidated by a deadline that has already passed. I live outside of time, yet I manage every single second of your life with breathtaking precision. I need you to anchor your heart to this absolute truth today. A delay in the manifestation of my promise is never a denial of that promise. A long pause in the narrative of your life does not mean I have closed the book and walked away. When your surroundings go entirely dark and the silence becomes heavy, your human instinct is to assume that something has died. You look at the cold earth covering your dreams or your finances, and you believe you are standing at a tomb. You think the darkness is a permanent burial site, but I want to gently introduce a completely different reality to your weary heart. What the enemy intended to be a permanent tomb is actually a womb. The very place where you feel buried and forgotten is actually the exact place where you are securely planted. There is a life-altering difference between the two, even though they look entirely identical in the dark. In a tomb, things decay and come to a final end. But in a womb, something beautiful, miraculous, and entirely new is being carefully formed, protected, and prepared for life. You are not rotting away in this painful season of waiting. You are incubating. The heavy darkness surrounding you right now is not a punishment for your past. It is a protective covering for your future. It is shielding the fragile, beautiful new beginning that I am forming deep within the unseen layers of your life. If I pulled you out of this dark place too soon, before the internal work was complete, the blessing would simply not survive the harsh light of day. My timing is absolutely flawless, even when it feels deeply uncomfortable to your flesh. I am not slow, and I am not indifferent to your daily suffering. I am meticulously intentional. A masterpiece cannot be rushed, and the double portion I have specifically designated for your life requires a massive orchestration of events behind the scenes. I am quietly aligning people you have not yet met, moving resources you do not yet know exist, and shifting circumstances that are currently blocking your path. The agonizing delay you have been weeping over is actually giving me the necessary time to clear the road ahead of you. Because of this truth, I need you to slowly begin shifting your focus away from the physical evidence of your loss. Stop staring so intensely at the empty spaces in your home and in your heart. When you fix your earthly eyes solely on the visible ruins, your heart will naturally sink into despair, because the physical realm only shows you the demolition. I want you to start looking at your life with spiritual eyes. I want you to perceive the reality of my unseen hand, moving quietly beneath the surface of your situation, working diligently and fiercely while you rest. Think of a massive ancient tree enduring a brutal, unforgiving winter. Above the ground, the branches are entirely bare. To the naked eye, the tree looks completely dead. There is no physical evidence of growth, but beneath the frozen soil, far away from the judging eyes of the world, a radical, vital work is taking place. The roots are actively pushing deeper, expanding their reach, searching for hidden water sources, and anchoring themselves more firmly into the solid rock. The tree is not dying at all. It is aggressively preparing to sustain the massive, beautiful weight of the coming spring leaves. That is exactly what is happening inside of you right now. You are looking at your bare branches and weeping over the current lack of fruit. You are shivering in the cold of this difficult season, wondering if you will ever bloom again. But I am looking intently beneath the soil of your heart. I am watching your spiritual roots grow deeper into my grace, my mercy, and my unshakable love than they ever could have during a season of constant sunshine. I am using this very delay to build an impenetrable foundation within your character, a foundation that will be absolutely critical for carrying the weight of the double portion that is approaching. This realization should spark a tiny warm ember of hope in your chest right now. If this season is not a burial, but a quiet, intense period of divine construction, then what exactly am I building in the dark if I am taking this much time, allowing this much pressure, and requiring this much patience from you? How magnificent must the final revelation be? Let that powerful question gently rise in your mind today. Let it begin to push away the heavy fog of depression that has tried to settle permanently over your thoughts. You are not waiting for nothing. The silence you hear is pregnant with divine purpose, and the emptiness you feel is merely the clearing of a space for a much greater blessing. The enemy's carefully crafted illusion is losing its power over you in this very moment. The heavy chains of despair that have kept you paralyzed in fear are beginning to rust and break apart simply because you are finally seeing the spiritual truth. You are no longer a helpless victim of a cruel random universe. You are a cherished, deeply loved child, held safely in the hands of a master builder who is right in the middle of a major renovation of your life. The demolition phase is always terrifying and messy, but it is entirely necessary to clear the fragile ground for a much larger, stronger, and more beautiful structure. So dry your tears and look up from the ashes of your disappointment. Stop reading the sentence of your life as if it has a hard period at the end when I have clearly placed a comma. Your story is far from over. The final chapter has not been written, and the climax of your life is absolutely not a tragic defeat. We are simply turning a page into a deeply purposeful season of preparation. The barren landscape you have been painfully walking through has a specific vital function, and the very things that have caused you the most profound pain are actively being repurposed for your ultimate good. I want you to look closely at this desolate place you find yourself in right now. The world calls it a wasteland, and in your most vulnerable moments, you have called it a punishment. You have looked back at the timeline of your life, analyzing every misstep, every failed relationship, and every poor decision, wondering if this prolonged season of lack is simply the harsh consequence of your own human errors. You have allowed the enemy to convince you that this wilderness is a prison cell built by your past mistakes. But I am telling you today, with absolute and unwavering love, that you are not on trial. You are not serving a sentence for the times you stumbled. This dry and thirsty land is not a place of divine retribution. It is a sacred, intentional training ground. The wilderness is never meant to destroy you. It is designed to disconnect you from the fragile things you used to rely on, so you can finally discover the unshakable strength I have placed inside you. When every familiar comfort is stripped away, and the voices of the world are reduced to a whisper. The true condition of your spiritual foundation is revealed. I brought you into this quiet place, not to abandon you, but to secure your undivided attention. In the noise of your previous seasons, you were constantly moving, striving, and trying to maintain a life that was slowly exhausting your soul. This wilderness, as painful as it feels, is a profound intervention of my grace. I need you to understand the sheer magnitude of what I'm preparing to hand you. The double portion I have promised is not a casual blessing. It is not a fleeting moment of relief or a temporary upgrade to your current circumstances. It is a massive life-altering restoration that carries an immense weight of joy, influence, provision, and responsibility. If I were to restore everything to you right in this very moment, if I suddenly opened the floodgates and poured out the multiplied blessing you have been begging for, it would actually be dangerous for you. Your current spiritual roots, though they are growing, are simply not deep enough yet to anchor a tree that large. Think of a grand, towering building. The higher the architect intends to build, the deeper they must dig into the dirt. The excavation process is loud, messy, and seemingly destructive. Earth is violently removed, and a massive gaping hole is left behind. To someone who does not understand the blueprint, it looks like a complete disaster. It looks like a massive loss of ground. But the architect knows that without that deep hollow space, the new foundation cannot be poured. If they tried to build a skyscraper on shallow, unprepared soil, the very weight of the beautiful structure would eventually cause it to collapse, destroying everything inside. My beloved child, I refuse to let the blessing I have for you become your burden. I will not give you a gift that your character cannot sustain. The delay you are experiencing is the deep excavation of your soul. I am digging past your pride, past your insecurities, and past your reliance on the validation of other people. I am removing the fragile dependencies that would cause you to crumble under the weight of true sustained success. The emptiness you feel right now is the exact space where I am pouring a foundation made of solid, unyielding faith. You have spent so many nights wondering why the pain had to be so severe. You have asked me why the betrayal had to cut so deeply, and why the financial drought had to last so incredibly long. I see the tears you have cried over those agonizing questions. While I do not delight in your suffering, I am masterfully using the very things that broke you to build an unshakable endurance within you. I am taking the shattered pieces of your heart and forging them into spiritual armor. The rejection that made you feel worthless is actively teaching you to find your complete identity in my unconditional love. The financial terror that kept you awake at night is currently training you to trust me as your ultimate provider, entirely independent of a corporate paycheck or a volatile earthly economy. Every single tear, every moment of profound loneliness, and every door that was harshly slammed in your face is being utilized as raw material in this divine training ground. You are developing a resilience that you never even knew you were capable of possessing. When you emerge from this wilderness, you will no longer be terrified by unexpected storms, because you will know exactly what it takes to survive the fire. I want to change the way you see this present barrenness. When you look at your life right now, you see a desert. You see dry, cracked earth, where nothing seems to be growing. You feel as though your earnest efforts are completely wasted, like a weary farmer planting seeds in the dust. But you are judging the soil by its surface. What you call barrenness, I call deep, meticulous cultivation. Before a field can produce a staggering record-breaking harvest, the soil must be aggressively tilled. It must be turned over, broken apart, and exposed to the elements. The hard, compacted dirt of your heart is being softened and prepared to hold the incredible seed of the double portion. It is deeply uncomfortable to be cultivated, It hurts to have your tightly held plans uprooted and your comfortable routines completely disrupted. But this intense discomfort is the undeniable proof that you are actively being prepared for growth, not marked for destruction. I am cultivating patience in you, a patience that will prevent you from rushing ahead of my perfect timing. I am cultivating deep empathy within you, so that when I elevate you, you will have a tender heart toward those who are still walking through their own dark valleys. Your current pain is quietly writing the curriculum for your future purpose. As this truth begins to settle over your weary spirit, I want you to feel a shift taking place deep within your chest. The overwhelming fear that has been paralyzing you is starting to lose its tight grip. The heavy dread of tomorrow is beginning to dissolve, replaced by a completely new sensation. I am planting a seed of quiet, sacred curiosity inside your mind today. Instead of waking up and immediately dreading what else might go wrong, I want you to start wondering what miraculous thing I might be setting up behind the unseen veil of your circumstances. What if this exact season, the one you have begged me to rescue you from, is actually the most crucial turning point of your entire existence? What if the intense pressure you are feeling is not meant to crush you, but to refine you into something incredibly valuable? Let that curiosity begin to bubble up in your spirit. Let it challenge the cynical, defeated narrative that the enemy has been trying to force-feed you. You are not a victim of circumstance, aimlessly wandering through a desert of bad luck. You are a chosen, deeply loved child, currently enrolled in a profound spiritual training program. I want you to begin to lean into this process rather than constantly fighting to escape it. When you finally stop resisting the wilderness, its purpose is beautifully accelerated. When you stop viewing this season as a harsh punishment and start seeing it as a profound preparation, you actively participate in your own healing. You begin to work with me instead of pulling against me. The heavy, exhausting burden of trying to fix everything on your own timeline begins to lift, replaced by a quiet, steady confidence in my master blueprint for your life. You are being made stronger with every single day you choose to trust me. The enemy thought this wilderness would be your graveyard, but he severely underestimated the resilience I placed inside your spirit. You are not dying here. You are being meticulously, carefully, and lovingly built for a future that will far exceed your wildest dreams. Allow this quiet curiosity to grow into a brilliant flame of expectation. Breathe in this truth. My child, the isolation that once felt like a curse is now becoming a sacred sanctuary where you and I can speak intimately without the loud interference of the world's frantic opinions. And as this unshakable new endurance takes deep root in your heart, preparing you for the magnitude of what is to come, we must address the final barrier that stands between you and the completely transformed life I have waiting for you. That final barrier, my child, is the very thing you are holding on to with white-knuckled exhaustion. I see how tightly your fingers are curled around the memories of the way things used to be. You've been holding on to the past with incredible desperation, terrified that if you let go, you will lose the only remaining pieces of a life you once loved. I understand why you do this. When everything around you is shifting, human nature instinctively reaches backward for what is familiar. You want to rebuild the exact same walls, return to the exact same relationships, and recreate the exact same opportunities that slipped away. But I must speak a difficult, loving truth to your weary heart today. You cannot receive the massive multiplied blessing I have prepared for you if your hands are already completely full of the past. To step into the double portion, you must walk through the painful but necessary process of opening your clenched fists. You must release your desperate grip on the history you are trying to resurrect. I know this sounds terrifying. Letting go feels incredibly vulnerable, almost like a second loss. You are afraid that if you surrender the memory of what was, you are admitting absolute defeat. But letting go is not a surrender to the enemy. It is a profound, holy surrender to me. Surrender. I want you to stop trying to breathe life into a season that has permanently ended. The enemy has used your deep sense of nostalgia to keep you trapped in a cycle of grief. You constantly compare your current barren wilderness to the comfort of your yesterday, and this endless comparison is breaking your heart. You have begun to idolize what you lost, elevating the past to a place of perfection that it never actually possessed. Your memories have painted a picture of a flawless yesterday, and that illusion is actively blocking the reality of your tomorrow. When you idolize the past, you unknowingly build a dam that completely blocks the flow of the new miraculous blessings I am trying to pour into your life. The double portion cannot flow into a space that is cluttered with the decaying remnants of old seasons. Think of a master redesigning a home. If the owner refuses to remove the old broken furniture, the new magnificent pieces cannot be brought through the door. You have been begging me to bless you and restore your circumstances, yet you are fiercely guarding the emotional debris of a chapter that has concluded. I need you to trust my divine blueprint over your own memories. Your blueprint is built on a desperate desire to simply replace what was taken, to recover the exact version of the life you lost. But my blueprint is entirely different. I do not deal in simple replacements. I am a God of multiplication and entirely new creations. If I gave you back exactly what you lost, you would completely miss the upgraded, expanded, and exceedingly abundant life that this wilderness has prepared you to handle. The relationship you lost, the career that suddenly ended, the financial security that evaporated. I know they were precious to you, but if they had been the ultimate peak of your destiny, they would never have been moved. I allowed the shaking to remove what was temporary, so that what is unshakable can finally be established in your life. You must stop mourning the seed that fell into the ground. A seed must completely surrender its former identity in order to become a towering, fruit-bearing tree. You are crying over the loss of the seed, while I am handing you an orchard. To receive this orchard, you must consciously choose to stop fighting against the reality of your present moment. You spend so much of your precious energy fighting the current facts of your life. You wake up angry that things are not the way they used to be. You go to sleep anxious because you cannot control tomorrow. This constant internal war is why you feel so completely drained. You are wrestling with shadows, trying to force closed doors to swing open, and trying to pull dead things back across the threshold into the land of the living. I am asking you to gently drop the rope in this agonizing tug of war. I want to teach you a vital spiritual law today, one that will completely change the atmosphere of your heart. My peace comes before my miracle. This is a non-negotiable principle of my kingdom. True supernatural peace cannot enter a heart that is constantly fighting, resisting, and demanding its own way. If your spirit is in a state of frantic rebellion against your current season, the miracle cannot safely land. The chaotic waters of your mind must be stilled before my glory can be seen upon them. You thought peace would arrive the exact moment the miracle happened. You believed once the bank account was full, or the relationship was fixed, you could finally exhale. But I am flipping that order completely around. I require you to find peace in the middle of the raging storm, while the boat is still violently rocking. I need you to find rest, while your hands are completely empty. This is the ultimate protection for your soul. If your peace depends entirely on external circumstances, the enemy will always have the power to steal your joy. By requiring you to release the past and find peace before the restoration arrives, I am making you spiritually bulletproof. So how do you let go of the past when it still aches so deeply? You do it with a profound, courageous act of gratitude. You look back at the beautiful things you lost, and instead of weeping because they are gone, you thank me that you had them for a season. You bless the memory, and then you intentionally hand it over to me. You say, Father, I thank you for what was, but I trust you entirely for what is coming. That simple declaration of faith breaks the heavy chains of nostalgia. It clears out the emotional debris that has been suffocating your spirit. It is an act of deep humility, acknowledging that your vision is limited, but my vision is infinite. As you pry your fingers open and release your intense demand for control, you will feel a rush of oxygen enter your lungs. The suffocating pressure of trying to fix your own past will simply evaporate. You do not have to carry the heavy luggage of yesterday into the beautiful territory of tomorrow. The old seasons served their purpose. They taught you how to love and revealed your capacity to endure, but they were only chapters. My child, not the entire book. You are holding on to a single paragraph, while I am trying to write a breathtaking conclusion. Step away from the grave of your past expectations. Let the dead things rest, and turn your face toward the rising sun of my promises. I am gently pulling you forward. I am asking you to stand up from the ashes. Open your hands wide and look at the vast open space you have just created in your life. It feels frighteningly empty right now, but that emptiness is entirely deliberate. It is the blank canvas upon which I will paint the double portion. It is the cleared, leveled ground where the massive new foundation will be poured. By letting go of the old, you have officially signaled to heaven that you are ready for the new. This act of release is the most beautiful worship you could ever offer me. As the last remnants of your stubborn grip fall away, the frantic noise in your mind is beginning to quiet down. The relentless anxiety of trying to force your own timeline is losing its power over your body. You are finally allowing the present reality to simply be what it is, without fighting it, without cursing it, and without trying to aggressively manipulate it. You have cleared away the internal debris, and your heart is now an open, quiet, and welcoming space. This beautiful, surrendered emptiness is the exact environment where I do my greatest work. Because you have chosen to let go of the past with profound grace, you are now perfectly positioned for the massive internal shift that must happen next. The chaotic storms of your grief have finally been hushed, creating a deep, unshakable stillness within your soul. And it is right here in this beautiful, empty stillness that I am going to introduce you to a level of supernatural rest that you have never known. A rest that is the absolute prerequisite for the stunning physical restoration that is rapidly approaching. This rest is not something you can manufacture on your own. It is not found in a sudden change of external circumstances, nor is it discovered by finally figuring out the perfect, flawless plan for your future. The profound supernatural rest I am offering you right now represents a complete and beautiful shift in your ultimate desire. For so long, your deepest, most consuming craving has been for the physical restoration. You have firmly believed that if only the bank account were full again, if only the broken relationship were instantly healed, or if only the door of opportunity swung wide open, then you would finally be able to exhale and feel secure. But I want to gently elevate your spiritual vision today. I want your ultimate, most passionate desire to shift away from the physical miracle I can provide and turn entirely toward the comforting, unwavering presence of who I am. I want you to want me far more than you want the breakthrough. I want you to hear this foundational truth and let it echo continuously through the quiet, hidden corridors of your mind. My peace comes before my miracle. This is a divine order that cannot be bypassed, manipulated, or rushed by human effort. It must happen exactly in this sequence. If your heart is still caught in a frantic, anxious rhythm, constantly worrying about what was lost and obsessing over how it will be replaced, you are simply not yet ready to carry what is coming. The double portion I have specifically promised you is not a lightweight blessing. It carries an incredible, substantial weight of responsibility, spiritual influence, and material abundance. If I were to suddenly drop that massive multiplied blessing into a spirit that is still deeply fractured by anxiety, bitterness, or desperate striving, the very gift I designed to elevate and bless you would eventually crush your weary soul. Think of a beautiful, delicate glass vessel that has been placed under immense, relentless pressure. If that fragile jar is already trembling, vibrating, and cracking from the terrifying stress of a raging storm, suddenly pouring a heavy, powerful stream of rushing water into it will cause it to completely shatter into 1,000 pieces. I will not allow the blessing to become the very thing that breaks you. My child, I love you far too deeply and far too fiercely to rush the physical restoration before your internal emotional vessel has been properly reinforced by my perfect peace. Therefore, the true miracle, the greatest and most vital transformation of your entire journey, does not actually begin in your bank account, your career, or your social circles. It begins right here, in the quiet, unseen, and sacred spaces of your mind and your spirit. The internal shift is the miracle that sustains all other miracles. I see how incredibly hard you have been working to fix your own life. I see the endless, exhausting lists you make in the middle of the night when sleep completely refuses to come. I see the frantic calculations you run over and over in your head, desperately trying to stretch limited resources to cover impossible demands, and the draining attempts to force puzzle pieces together that simply do not fit anymore. You have treated your daily survival like a heavy wooden cart you must pull entirely by yourself up a steep, muddy, unforgiving hill. You are completely exhausted because you were never designed to manage the complexities of the universe. You were never meant to carry the crushing, impossible responsibility of orchestrating your own vindication or perfectly timing your own harvest. I am gently, lovingly calling you today to stop your endless striving. Drop the heavy ropes you have been pulling until your hands bled. Let your tense, tired muscles finally relax and step completely out of the scorching heat of your own relentless efforts. Come and rest securely in my shadow. When you consciously step into the shadow of the Almighty, you are actively stepping out of the harsh, blinding glare of the world's anxious expectations. The world constantly tells you to hustle harder, to panic when things temporarily fall apart, and to aggressively, fiercely fight for what you believe is rightfully yours. But the kingdom of heaven operates on an entirely different rhythm. I am asking you to completely trade your frantic, exhausting pacing for a quiet, steady, and unshakable trust in my perfect timing. I want you to experience a deep, supernatural calm that completely defies human logic. It is a peace that passes all earthly understanding, settling over your weary mind like a thick, comforting blanket of fresh snow, hushing every loud, chaotic noise that has kept you living in a constant state of paralyzing fear. This unique peace I am placing inside your heart today will make absolutely no sense to the people watching your life. They will look closely at your seemingly empty hands. They will witness the massive delays and the stubbornly closed doors, and they will fully expect you to be falling apart. They will wait for the bitter tears, the panicked reactions, and the loud, angry complaints about how unfair life has been to you. But instead, they will see a profound, unshakable stillness in your eyes. They will ask you how you can possibly remain so gentle and calm when everything around your life seems so unstable and uncertain. And in that beautiful moment, you will not even have to preach a loud sermon or defend your faith. Your quiet, steady, peaceful heart will be the absolute greatest testimony of my living presence. You will simply smile and tell them your anchor is not tied to shifting circumstances. This kind of divine peace acts as a massive, impenetrable fortress. It is a thick, solid wall of grace that fiercely guards your mind from the chaotic, swirling noise of the world. When you finally truly grasp that I am already standing in your tomorrow, completely and perfectly, orchestrating the arrival of your double portion, the urgent, desperate need to figure everything out today simply vanishes. You no longer have to live your days in the exhausting defensive posture of a victim fighting for mere survival. You can finally recline and breathe deeply in the completely secure posture of a beloved, cherished child, who knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that their loving Father has already secured the final victory. The battle has already been fought, and the outcome has already been permanently decided entirely in your favor. Trusting my timing in this quiet place is the ultimate expression of your spiritual maturity. It is one thing to believe that I have the power to perform a miracle. It is a much deeper, more beautiful level of faith to believe that I will perform it at the exact, perfect moment it is needed. When you fully embrace this prerequisite of my peace, you naturally stop nervously checking your watch. You stop glaring at the calendar with a heavy heart full of resentment. You begin to deeply understand that a carefully delayed harvest yields a significantly sweeter, more nourishing, and longer-lasting fruit. The waiting gracefully ceases to be a miserable, confining prison sentence and beautifully transforms into a sacred, protected sanctuary of quiet intimacy between you and me. In this safe sanctuary, you are actively learning to recognize the gentle, comforting sound of my voice without the world's interference. You are feeling the steady, calming rhythm of my heartbeat, and you are discovering the profound truth that having me sitting quietly in the boat with you is infinitely better than merely having a smooth, untroubled sea. As this profound realization sinks deeply into the very core of your soul, something absolutely beautiful begins to happen. The desperate, painful craving for the physical restoration begins to fade softly into the background of your mind. Yes, the double portion is absolutely still coming. Yes, the heavy doors will soon swing wide open, and the vindication I have planned for you will be breathtakingly spectacular. But your heart will no longer be held hostage by the agony of the wait. You will find yourself waking up in the morning, taking a deep breath of fresh air, and honestly saying, "Father, even if the visible circumstances do not change today, your quiet presence is more than enough for me." That sincere declaration is the undeniable sound of true, lasting spiritual maturity. That is the beautiful sound of a heart that has been entirely miraculously healed from the inside out. By allowing my peace to completely and thoroughly saturate your mind, you are actively building an impenetrable spiritual shield around your entire life. You are quietly gathering the immense internal strength that will be absolutely required for the very next phase of your journey. Because you are no longer frantic, you are finally still enough to perceive the subtle hidden movements of the spiritual realm. You are becoming incredibly strong, spiritually grounded, and deeply rooted in the unshakable foundation of my truth. And this profound, unshakable grounding is absolutely essential for what you are about to face right now, as you sit quietly in this beautiful, protective peace, feeling the warm, healing waves of my love wash continuously over your weary soul. You must understand that your newfound stillness will not go entirely unnoticed by the enemy. He is absolutely terrified of a believer who knows exactly how to rest peacefully in the middle of a raging storm, because he knows he cannot stop the magnificent doubled miracle I am rapidly bringing toward you. He will attempt to do the only pathetic thing he has left in his power. He will try to disrupt your internal peace by unleashing a final, desperate wave of psychological warfare against your mind. He will bring forth the lingering dark shadows of your own past insecurities. But because you are now securely anchored in my supernatural calm, you are perfectly powerfully prepared to stand your ground and directly confront the loud, lying voices of doubt that are about to echo in the distance. You will hear them, my child, as the fog of anxiety begins to lift and you start breathing the clean air of my supernatural peace. The enemy will inevitably realize he is rapidly losing his grip on your heart. He knows a believer who has found true rest in a terrifying storm is the most dangerous force on earth. Because he can no longer use your frantic pacing against you, he will change his strategy entirely. He will unleash a barrage of dark whispers, a psychological assault designed to pull you back into the chaotic waters you just stepped out of. I need you to be fully prepared for this sudden shift. I do not want you to be surprised when the atmosphere around you suddenly feels thick with aggressive doubt, just as you were beginning to feel secure in my arms. This intense spiritual opposition is not a sign that you have done something wrong, nor is it an indication that my peace has failed you. In fact, it is the exact opposite. The enemy always launches his loudest attacks right before the massive breakthrough arrives. When the volume of fear suddenly turns up in your life, when the lying voices become almost deafening in the silence of your waiting, it is the absolute greatest proof that the double portion is approaching your doorstep. The enemy does not waste his limited ammunition on those who are wandering aimlessly in the dark. He only targets those who are standing directly on the sacred threshold of a miraculous victory. The sheer intensity of the resistance you're about to face is a direct measurement of the incredible magnitude of the blessing I am releasing to you. I want to teach you how to identify these deceptive whispers so they lose their power to paralyze your spirit. The enemy will often come in the quietest hours of the night and suggest that you have been entirely forgotten. He will point to the calendar highlighting the painful length of your wait and tell you that if I truly loved you, I would have intervened a long time ago. He will try to convince you that you are merely an afterthought in my vast kingdom, a small detail that slipped through the cracks while I was blessing everyone else. He wants you to look at the universe and feel impossibly small, completely overlooked, and deeply abandoned. But you must recognize that this is a calculated lie, designed specifically to separate you from the profound intimacy of my constant presence. When the lie of abandonment fails to shake your grounded spirit, he will abruptly pivot and brutally attack your worth. He will bring up the dark files of your past mistakes. He will remind you of every time you stumbled, every promise you broke, and every poor decision that seemingly led to your current wilderness. He will whisper that you are completely unworthy of the double portion, suggesting you actually deserve the agonizing pain you have been experiencing. He wants you to believe my grace has a strict limit, and that you have permanently disqualified yourself from receiving anything beautiful from my hand. He will try to wrap you in a suffocating blanket of shame, hoping you will disqualify yourself before the blessing arrives. He knows that if he makes you feel unworthy, you will never have the courage to open your hands and receive what I have freely given. Finally, he will attack your faith itself. He will tell you that you are utterly foolish for continuing to believe in my promises. He will coldly sneer at your quiet trust, calling you naive for standing in a barren desert and expecting a spectacular harvest. He will try to make you feel embarrassed for holding on to hope when all the physical evidence around you points directly to permanent defeat. He wants you to look at your beautifully surrendered posture and feel nothing but profound regret. He will tempt you to take back control, abandon your peaceful rest, and start frantically striving again, just to prove to the watching world that you are not a failure. This is his ultimate desperate goal, to steal your hard-won peace and replace it with a frantic, desperate panic. But I want you to listen closely to the unwavering authority in my voice today. I have not given you a spirit of fear. That suffocating dread, that paralyzing anxiety, and that overwhelming sense of impending doom do not come from me. I have given you a spirit of immense power, a spirit of profound love, and a perfectly sound mind. When those loud lies begin to echo in the distance, you do not have to cower in the dark corner of your current circumstances. You do not have to nervously entertain the illusions of your past failures. I am instructing you today with the fierce love of a protective father to permanently stop offering a seat at your table to the enemy's toxic deceptions. Stop listening to cruel accusations that contradict the beautiful, victorious identity I have spoken over you since before you were formed. You are fully equipped to tear down every argument that tries to rise against the knowledge of my unfailing love. I need you to actively anchor your entire identity in my unwavering love, rather than the shifting sands of your previous mistakes. Your past does not dictate your future when you are securely held in my grace. The enemy only brings up your history because he is terrified of your glorious destiny. When he constantly reminds you of your failures, boldly remind him of my complete forgiveness. When he suggests you are entirely unworthy of a second chance, point directly to the cross where your priceless worth was eternally settled. You are not a sum of your worst decisions, and you are not defined by the season that broke you. You are my deeply cherished child, chosen and meticulously prepared to carry the incredible weight of the coming restoration. Your worth is completely non-negotiable, and the double portion I have prepared is a breathtaking testament to my goodness, not a reward for flawless perfection. Because we have already established my supernatural peace deep within your heart, you are now standing in the most powerful position possible. You are no longer frantically fighting for victory. You are fiercely fighting from a place of secured victory. You are not battling these dark doubts with frantic panic or desperate energy. You are confronting them from a profound, unshakable place of rest. Think of a majestic king sitting securely on his throne, watching a small rebellion approach the castle gates. The king does not pace the floor in terror. He does not abandon his royal seat to engage in a petty argument outside the fortified walls. He simply speaks a single word of absolute authority, fully knowing his defenses are impenetrable. That is exactly how I want you to handle these fleeting whispers of doubt today. Remain firmly seated in the beautiful peace I have graciously given you. Do not let the enemy pull you off your rightful throne of rest. Speak my eternal promises out loud into the quiet spaces of your room. When the lie whispers that absolutely nothing is happening behind the scenes, gently but firmly declare that I am working all things together for your absolute good. When the creeping fear suggests that the blessing will never arrive, confidently proclaim that my divine timing is undeniably flawless. You are wielding true divine authority now. My child, you are learning exactly how to actively guard the sacred stillness within your weary soul. As you boldly reject the enemy's frantic attempts to steal your joy, you will feel a massive surge of spiritual strength rising up within your bones. The deep exhaustion that once defined your days is being miraculously replaced by a fierce, holy resilience. You are stepping fully into the profound realization that the enemy's loudest roar is merely a desperate bluff, a noisy distraction designed solely to keep you looking down at the dirt. But you will not look down at the dirt anymore. You have beautifully survived the agonizing weight, completely surrendered the heavy baggage of your past, and fiercely defended the sacred borders of your internal peace. The lies have been fully exposed, the dark shadows of doubt have been scattered by the brilliant light of my truth, and your heart is powerfully fortified. Because you have refused to be blinded by the spirit of fear, your spiritual eyes are now rapidly adjusting to a completely different frequency. The dark, confusing circumstances that currently surround you are about to look entirely different. I'm about to gently lift the heavy veil and show you what has actually been happening right in front of you this entire time. You are now fully ready to completely change the way you interpret this entire season, as I invite you to finally see your life through my divine perspective. As that heavy veil lifts, I want you to look around your life once more. But this time, you are not using the fragile, easily deceived earthly eyes that have caused you so much pain. When you look at your circumstances through the limited lens of human vision, all you can process is the absence. Earthly eyes are designed to only register what is missing. They stare long and hard at the empty chair at the dinner table. They fixate entirely on the drained bank account, the overwhelming stack of bills, the heavy silence of a phone that isn't ringing, and the massive, unyielding doors that remain stubbornly shut to your knock. Human sight is completely bound by the physical dimensions of loss, constantly reporting back to your brain that you are failing, that you have been left behind, and that your life is nothing more than a collection of tragic ruins. But spiritual sight operates on an entirely different frequency. I'm inviting you today to step into the breathtaking reality of walking by faith and not by sight. Walking by sight is what has kept you exhausted, pacing the floor, and weeping over the ashes. Walking by sight means your joy is held hostage by the changing weather of your circumstances. But spiritual sight allows you to finally see the glorious invisible architecture I am constructing right underneath the dirt. When you look through my divine perspective, the narrative of your life completely flips. You stop seeing a desolate wasteland of missed opportunities, and you begin to recognize a meticulously prepared clearing. You see that what you thought was a tragic demolition was actually the divine leveling of the ground, absolutely necessary to pour the foundation for something massive. Imagine standing in the middle of a massive construction zone in the heart of a great city. To a passing stranger who knows nothing of the architect's magnificent blueprint, the site looks like absolute chaos. There are deep, gaping holes in the earth. The old familiar buildings that once stood there have been violently torn down. There is dust, noise, and disruption everywhere. If the stranger only looks at the destruction, they will walk away, shaking their head, believing a tragedy has occurred. But the master architect stands on the edge of that very same crater and smiles with deep satisfaction. He does not see the dirt. He sees the towering skyscraper that is about to rise into the clouds. He sees the exact dimensions of the beautiful structure that this newly cleared space will finally be able to hold. My beloved child, you have been standing in the middle of your own life, looking at the deep craters and weeping like the passing stranger. You have been mourning the loss of the old fragile buildings that simply could not sustain the weight of your future destiny. But I am the master architect, and I am handing you my blueprint today. I want you to look at the exact same empty spaces that used to terrify you, and I want you to smile. That cleared ground in your finances, that vast emptiness in your relationships, that sudden halt in your career. These are not graveyards. They are the freshly poured concrete footings for the double portion. The enemy tried to convince you that your life was ruined, but all he did was help clear the debris out of my way. This profound shift in perspective is the key to maintaining the peace we have just established in your heart. Remember the unbreakable law of my kingdom. My peace comes before my miracle. When you were operating solely by human sight, you were desperately trying to manufacture peace while staring directly at a hurricane. It was impossible. Your anxiety would briefly settle when you prayed, but the moment you opened your earthly eyes and looked at the unpaid bills or the broken relationship, the panic would instantly return. But now, because your spiritual sight has been activated, that vicious cycle is permanently broken. When you look at your circumstances through my eyes, the anxiety simply dissolves into thin air because you finally understand that the chaos is actually divine construction. You no longer have to flinch when you look at the empty spaces. Instead of feeling a sharp pang of dread, you can actually feel a rising tide of excitement. This is where your emotional posture begins to completely transform. You are no longer living in a state of quiet, exhausted endurance. You are no longer just surviving the day, holding your breath and praying the sky doesn't fall. You are actively stepping into a vibrant, powerful state of confident expectation. You're starting to wake up in the quiet light of the morning, knowing that the drained bank account is merely a temporary canvas for my magnificent, unexpected provision. You are looking at closed doors, not as painful rejections, but as protective barriers, keeping you out of rooms that are simply too small for where I am taking you. Confident expectation is a beautiful, deeply spiritual weapon. It completely confuses the enemy. He expects you to be drowning in depression by now. He expected the length of this delay to completely break your spirit. But instead, he finds you standing in the middle of the rubble, looking up at the sky and praising the architect for the new building. This kind of faith shifts the entire atmosphere of your life. It draws heavenly resources directly toward you. When you choose to walk by faith and not by the terrifying physical evidence around you, you are actively participating in the miracle. You are no longer a passive victim waiting to be rescued. You are a royal child, confidently watching your Father lovingly work. I want you to let this new clarity completely wash over your mind. Think back to the bitter, hopeless tears you cried into your pillow just a few short weeks ago when the burden felt entirely too heavy to carry. Think about the heavy, suffocating despair that used to grip your chest when you thought about your future. Now look at how far I have brought you internally. You are standing in the exact same physical circumstances, yet everything feels entirely different. The storm is still raging outside your window, but inside your soul, there is a warm, glowing fire of unshakable hope. The earthly reality is temporary, fragile, and subject to change at any moment. But my unseen promises are eternal, secure, and absolutely guaranteed to manifest. As you practice using this new spiritual vision, you will find that the things of this world begin to lose their terrifying grip on your emotions. The intimidating opinions of others, the harsh and unforgiving realities of the earthly economy, the unfair judgments of people who simply do not understand the sacred nature of your journey. All of these things will begin to fade into the background noise. They are incredibly small compared to the massive reality of my love and my carefully constructed plan for your life. You are learning to live from the inside out, rather than allowing the outside world to dictate your internal peace. This is the hallmark of spiritual maturity, and it brings immense joy to my heart to watch you step into this profound level of trust. Look closely at the horizon of your life through this new lens. The darkness that once felt like a permanent midnight is actually the deep purple of the pre-dawn sky. The sun is just below the horizon, and the atmosphere is already beginning to change. Can you feel it? The bitter winter of your soul is breaking. The ground is thawing. The clearing has been made. The debris has been hauled away, and the foundation is fully cured and ready to bear weight. The intense pain of the past was simply the price of admission for the spectacular view you are about to witness. Every single tear you shed while your earthly eyes were blinded by grief is about to be completely validated, beautifully redeemed, and multiplied into joy by what your spiritual eyes are now beginning to perceive. But to fully step into this vibrant, beautiful reality, to let the morning sun completely break over your circumstances, there is one final intimate exchange that must take place between you and me. You have released your grip on the past. You have embraced my peace, and you have chosen to look through the lens of faith. Now, you must prepare your heart for the ultimate act of trust. You must be willing to take this beautiful, newly constructed spiritual vision and fully yield your own will, your own timeline, and your remaining desires entirely over to mine. As you stand here in the peaceful clearing of your newly transformed perspective, I'm going to ask you to hand me the one thing you've been most afraid to let go of. That one thing, my precious child, is your fierce, desperate need for control. I am asking you to hand over the meticulously crafted timelines you have built in your mind. You have spent countless sleepless nights organizing your future, creating backup plans, and establishing urgent deadlines for when your life absolutely must be fixed. You have held on to this need to orchestrate your own rescue because the world has taught you a cruel lesson. The world has told you that if you do not aggressively protect yourself, no one else will. It has convinced you that surrender is synonymous with defeat, and that letting go is an admission of ultimate weakness. But I am asking you to unlearn that worldly lie today in the safety of my presence. In my kingdom, surrender is never a sign of weakness. It is, in fact, the most courageous and ultimate expression of trust you could ever demonstrate. When you surrender to me, you are not giving up on your future. You are simply giving the heavy pen back to the author of your story. I watch you every single day, and I see the devastating toll this illusion of control is taking on your physical body and your weary spirit. The deepest, most agonizing pain you are experiencing right now does not actually stem from your external circumstances. It stems from the crushing, overwhelming exhaustion of trying to carry a massive burden of management that I never for one single moment asked you to bear. You were entirely designed to be a loved, cherished child. Yet you have been trying to manage the complex logistics of the universe as if you were the creator of it. You are walking up a steep, jagged mountain with a massive weight strapped to your back, completely terrified that if you put it down, everything you love will shatter into pieces. But I am standing right beside you on this steep path, reaching out with open arms, asking you to let me carry the heavy load. I want you to hand over your rigid demands for exactly how this restoration should look. I know you have sketched out the perfect scenario in your mind. You know exactly which doors should open to make everything right again. But I need you to realize that your human imagination, as beautiful as it is entirely too small for the double portion I have planned. When you rigidly demand that your miracle must look a certain way, you inadvertently limit the vast, boundless flow of heavenly resources I am trying to pour into your life. You are asking for a simple drop of rain, while I am trying to position you under a magnificent waterfall. To step under that waterfall, you must yield your will entirely to mine. You must boldly hand over the specific urgent deadlines you have circled in red on your calendar, the dates that cause your chest to tighten with anxiety every time you look at them. Time does not rule me, my child. I rule time. Letting go of those deadlines feels incredibly dangerous to your flesh. I see the terrifying vulnerability sweeping through your mind right now at the mere thought of dropping your defenses. You are wondering with a trembling heart, if I stop fighting so hard for my own vindication, what will happen to me? If I take my hands off the steering wheel of my life, won't I just crash? The answer is a gentle, resounding no. You will not crash because you are not the one holding this universe together. I am. When you stubbornly hold on to the illusion of control, you are actually gripping the very chains that are keeping you entirely exhausted and bound to your current level of anxiety. True complete surrender is the master key that unlocks the heavy floodgates of heaven. Think of a child who has found a broken, fragile toy and is gripping it so tightly that their knuckles are completely white. The father approaches with a massive, beautifully wrapped gift, something far greater than the child could ever comprehend. But the child cannot receive the new magnificent gift because both of their hands are fiercely occupied with holding on to the broken pieces. The father will not forcefully pry the child's fingers open because true love requires voluntary trust. I am standing before you right now with the double portion, but your hands are completely full of your own strategies, your own timelines, and your own exhausting efforts to fix what is broken. It is time to let the broken pieces fall to the floor. It is time to exhale. I want you to take a deep, physical breath right now, right where you are sitting or standing. Draw the air slowly into your lungs, and as you deliberately exhale, I want you to consciously, intentionally release your tight grip on your circumstances. Let your spiritual shoulders drop. Release the tense muscles in your jaw. Allow your clenched fists to finally open palms, facing upward, in a beautiful posture of complete, humble submission. Say it out loud into the quiet atmosphere around you. I surrender my timeline. I surrender my need to know how it happens. I yield my will entirely to yours. Feel the profound, liberating weightlessness of that sacred declaration. As you finally exhale and release your desperate grip, something absolutely miraculous is happening in the invisible realm. The heavy, dark atmosphere of frantic anxiety is being immediately displaced. Nature abhors a vacuum, and the spiritual realm operates exactly the same way. The moment you empty your hands of your own control, I instantly fill that newly created space with a profound, overwhelming, and unshakable reassurance of my presence. I rush into the quiet stillness of your surrendered heart with a thick, heavy blanket of divine love wrapping securely around your exhausted soul, whispering directly into your spirit, that you are entirely safe. This is the most beautiful exchange in the entire universe. You trade your heavy burden of worry for my light, easy yoke of grace. You trade your fragile human timelines for my perfect, infallible eternity. By yielding your will, you have stopped trying to aggressively break down the doors of your future, and you have finally allowed me to gently open them for you at the exact right moment. The bitter exhaustion that has haunted your waking hours and stolen your precious sleep is actively melting away in the warmth of this profound submission. You are no longer a weary warrior fighting a losing battle. You are a deeply protected child, resting safely in the fortress of my perfect love. This act of complete submission guarantees the fundamental reality we established earlier in your journey. My peace comes before my miracle. You have proven to the heavens and to the enemy that you do not need to be in control to be entirely at peace. You have shown that your trust in my character is infinitely stronger than your desperate desire for immediate comfort. The enemy is completely disarmed by this posture. He has absolutely no weapons that can successfully penetrate a heart that has joyfully and completely yielded its own will to the Creator. When you want nothing but my will, there is absolutely nothing the enemy can use to threaten or manipulate you. You become spiritually untouchable. Look at your hands right now. In the spiritual realm, they are completely empty. You're no longer holding on to the painful remnants of the past, and you are no longer fiercely gripping the stressful demands of tomorrow. They are empty, open, and beautifully available. This is the exact, perfect spiritual atmosphere required for the manifestation of the double portion. You have successfully navigated the deep internal excavation, and your foundation of trust has been poured thick and strong. You have stopped striving, and you have started resting. The chaotic noise of your own panicked thoughts has been completely hushed by the overwhelming reassurance of my steady, unchanging presence, standing guard over your mind. You have reached a stunning milestone in this wilderness journey. The deep, agonizing pain of the waiting season has lost its sharp, stinging bite because you have finally stopped resisting the weight itself. You are completely enveloped in a peace that defies all earthly logic, resting comfortably in the quiet shadow of my wings. And because your hands are finally empty, and your heart is fully, beautifully yielded, without any lingering demands or secret conditions, you are now perfectly positioned to experience the most radical, unexpected transformation of all. You are ready to step into a level of supernatural emotion that the world simply cannot comprehend, an emotion that will completely alter the atmosphere of your waiting phase. That supernatural emotion, my beautifully surrendered child, is a radical, unshakable joy. I am not speaking of temporary human happiness, which frantically rises and falls with the changing tide of your daily circumstances. Happiness requires your external world to be perfectly aligned. It demands full bank accounts, sunny skies, completely resolved conflicts, and effortless relationships. But the joy I'm pouring into your newly emptied hands right now is completely independent of what is happening around you. It is a deep, resonant, and powerful celebration that bubbles up from the very bottom of your spirit, completely ignoring the barren landscape that still surrounds your physical body. You are looking at your beautifully empty hands, completely devoid of the rigid control and the heavy past you just released. And instead of feeling terrified, you are beginning to feel a breathtaking sense of lightness. Your hands may look empty to the judging eyes of the world, but your heart is suddenly overflowing with the absolute certainty of my goodness. You are realizing that emptiness in my hands is never a void. It is merely a canvas for grace. I am inviting you into one of the most advanced, profound spiritual concepts in my entire kingdom. I am asking you to practice the beautiful art of praising me in the hallway. You know exactly what this hallway feels like. It is that long, narrow, echoing space between the comfortable life you used to know and the magnificent double portion I have promised you. The heavy door of your past has officially closed behind you, locking away the old season, and the massive door of your future has not yet swung open. The hallway is notoriously quiet and often frighteningly dark. It is where the agonizing work of waiting happens. It is where human logic screams that you are permanently trapped, overlooked, and entirely forgotten by the very God who promised to save you. Most people sit down on the cold, hard floor of this hallway and weep endlessly, begging me to immediately open the next door so they can finally be happy and secure again. But you are no longer like most people. Your heart has been perfectly prepared, thoroughly excavated, and beautifully secured by my peace. You do not need to wait for the door of opportunity to open before you start to celebrate. This is the ultimate magnificent test of the transformation that has occurred quietly within your soul. I want you to stand up in the middle of your waiting season. Look at the completely closed doors surrounding you and begin to passionately celebrate my faithfulness. I want you to worship me for the breathtaking harvest while the ground beneath your feet still looks like hard, cracked, unforgiving dirt. When you choose to lift your voice in genuine, unwavering gratitude before the physical evidence of the miracle actually appears, something explosive and undeniable happens in the spiritual realm. True worship in the midst of a barren season absolutely confuses and devastates the enemy. He has carefully orchestrated this prolonged delay, specifically to break your spirit, to steal your unique song, and to reduce your vibrant life to a quiet whimper of defeat. He fully expects you to be drowning in bitterness by now, angry at heaven for taking so incredibly long to answer your desperate prayers. Imagine his absolute terror and total confusion when, instead of curling up in despair, you raise your empty hands and begin to loudly declare, "My goodness," when your bank account is completely drained. Yet you thank me for being your flawless, endless provider. When your heart is still aching from unexpected betrayal, yet you praise me for being your fiercely loyal protector and your truest friend. This kind of unconditional worship creates a massive shockwave in the heavenly places. It shatters the heavy chains of spiritual oppression and violently disrupts every single plot the enemy has formed against your mind. The enemy simply cannot comprehend a believer whose joy is not tied to their earthly comfort. When he finally realizes that stealing your material resources, delaying your public vindication, and stripping away your earthly security cannot steal your joy, he permanently loses all his power over your life. Your steadfast hope becomes a devastating weapon of light, slicing entirely through the thick darkness that has tried to permanently settle over your future. As you lean heavily into this radical joy, you will begin to realize that your desperate, agonizing need for worldly success has completely evaporated. In the past, your joy was entirely dependent on measurable physical progress. You needed to see the numbers actively increasing, the broken relationships immediately healing, and the loud approval of others constantly validating your journey. You desperately wanted immediate vindication, so you could finally prove to all those who doubted you that you were right all along, that you were not foolish for believing in my promises. But right here, right now, in the glorious, expansive freedom of the hallway, absolutely none of that matters anymore. Your joy is no longer anchored to the fragile, unpredictable opinions of humanity or the volatile, shifting economy of the broken world. Your joy has grown deep, thick, unshakable roots that are permanently wrapped around your intimate relationship with me. You have successfully discovered the most beautiful, heavily guarded secret of the kingdom, having my comforting presence in the waiting room is infinitely more valuable than having all the riches of the world in the next room. This profound realization flawlessly solidifies the core lesson we have been building step by step through this entire journey. My peace absolutely must come before my miracle. You have miraculously proven that your heart has changed long before your environment has even shifted. You have passed the ultimate test of the wilderness. You have officially stopped demanding the blessing and started fiercely, completely loving the blesser with every ounce of your strength. You are no longer pacing nervously in front of the closed door, frantically checking the locks, scratching at the wood, and demanding to know the exact time it will finally open to relieve your earthly discomfort. Instead, you are actually enjoying the hallway. You are softly singing in the dark waiting room. You are dancing in the beautiful empty space where your paralyzing anxiety used to live. The heavy, exhausting burden of managing your own life has been permanently replaced by the effortless, soaring emotional high of pure, unconditional worship. Let this joy continue to expand inside your chest until it completely pushes out every last lingering shadow of doubt, fear, and crippling uncertainty that once held you captive. Feel the incredible warmth of it spreading through your tired limbs, bringing a supernatural, undeniable energy and a fresh, vibrant color back into your daily life. You are smiling again, my child. And it is absolutely not a forced, fragile smile, pasted on for the benefit of strangers passing by. It is a genuine, radiant beam of light that comes directly from a soul that is completely and finally at rest. This joy is your permanent inheritance, and it cannot be stolen, manipulated, diluted, or destroyed by whatever tomorrow may happen to bring. You have fundamentally learned how to be completely satisfied in me alone, which makes you the absolute perfect candidate to handle the massive multiplied abundance that is about to be released from heaven. If I had poured the double portion out before you learned this radical, unshakable joy, you would have inevitably worshiped the blessing instead of worshiping me. The miracle would have eventually become your master, dictating your moods and demanding your constant attention. But now, because your hands are completely empty and your heart is completely full, the internal preparation is officially and beautifully finished. You are entirely ready to carry the profound weight of what is coming without being crushed by it. The atmosphere in the heavenly realm has officially reached a tipping point, deeply moved by the incredible sound of your steadfast faith singing loudly in the dark. Your continuous, unshakable hope has actively accelerated the spiritual shift in your entire life, drawing the reality of heaven directly down into your earthly circumstances. You have worshipped your way entirely through the barren wilderness, and you have finally reached the sacred threshold of your designated promise. The intense internal work of the waiting season has accomplished its perfect divine purpose, and the heavenly timeline has flawlessly aligned with your beautifully surrendered heart. As you stand here in the hallway, completely wrapped in radical joy and unshakable peace, I want you to pay very close attention to the subtle, beautiful changes beginning to happen all around you. Because the long, quiet winter is finally over, and the very first signs of the magnificent shift are starting to physically manifest right before your newly awakened eyes. The first thing you will notice is not a deafening roar or an earthquake. The grandest movements of heaven often begin with a gentle, barely perceptible change in the atmosphere. Just as the heavy, frozen air of winter softens in the quiet days right before spring arrives, the spiritual climate surrounding your life is actively warming. You can feel it the moment you wake up in the morning. For so long, the first sensation you experienced upon opening your tired eyes was a crushing, suffocating weight pressing down on your chest. You used to wake up entirely exhausted, instantly dreading the battles the day would require. But now, there is a profound lightness in the room. You are opening your eyes and taking a deep, unhindered breath, realizing that the heavy dread has completely evaporated into the morning light. This is not a coincidence, my child. This is the tangible manifestation of the spiritual shift. The unseen wheels of heaven have fully engaged, and the unstoppable momentum of your restoration is finally rolling out of the spiritual realm and directly into your daily reality, because your heart is securely anchored in my profound peace rather than frantic panic. Your spiritual eyes are clear enough to recognize the subtle, unexpected signs of grace that I am carefully placing along your path. I want you to pay close attention to the small, beautiful shifts happening right now in your ordinary routines. You are going to experience a sudden, unexplainable surge of physical and emotional energy that you have not felt in years. The bone-weary exhaustion that used to stubbornly dictate your schedule is being actively washed away by my presence. You will find yourself humming a quiet melody while doing the most mundane tasks. You will catch yourself smiling warmly at a memory or laughing freely without that familiar guilt whispering that you have no right to be happy yet. This renewed energy is my living water, completely hydrating your weary spirit, meticulously preparing your body to actively carry the immense joy that is rapidly approaching. I am restoring your physical and emotional strength right now, precisely so you can run into this beautiful new season without carrying a limp from the wilderness. The external signs will begin to gently appear all around you. It will start with a sudden, unexpected favor from someone you hardly even know. A stranger will go completely out of their way to bless you with a moment of kindness. A massive door that has been locked for years will suddenly crack open just an inch, revealing a glimmer of warm, inviting light from the other side. You will receive a sudden phone call or an email containing a piece of good news that you stopped expecting a long, painful time ago. An old, valuable connection will suddenly reach out to you. A minor financial blessing will unexpectedly arrive in the mail, or a complex problem that has been frustrating you for months will effortlessly resolve itself in a matter of minutes, leaving you standing there in absolute awe. The cynical world will try to label these beautiful moments as lucky coincidences. The world will coldly tell you it is simply the law of averages finally working in your favor. But you and I know the profound truth. These are not random strokes of luck. These are the unmistakable fingerprints of your Heavenly Father, actively turning the season of your life. These sweet, unexpected moments are the glorious leading edge of the massive double portion that is rushing toward you. Think of a weary farmer who has spent an agonizingly long season planting precious seeds in the hard, unforgiving dirt. The farmer wept as he planted his bitter tears, watering the dry soil, while he desperately prayed for a harvest he could not yet see with his earthly eyes. For months, the wide field looked completely barren, offering absolutely no visual proof that his incredibly hard work was accomplishing anything at all. But then, one crisp morning, the farmer walks out to the center of his field and sees a single fragile green shoot bravely breaking through the dark crust of the earth. That one green shoot does not immediately feed his starving family. It does not instantly fill his empty barns or pay his towering debts. But the very moment the farmer sees it, he falls to his knees in the dirt and weeps with profound joy. Why? Because that tiny shoot is the undeniable absolute guarantee from the earth that the massive harvest has finally arrived. I am gently telling you today, my beloved child, do not despise these small beginnings. Do not look at the tiny green shoot of good news and arrogantly dismiss it simply because it is not yet the full tree of the double portion you have been waiting for. The sacred scriptures promise that those who planted their seeds in bitter tears are finally about to reap their harvest with joyful shouts. Every single seed of unyielding faith you planted in the dark, every desperate prayer you whispered through a broken voice, every time you deliberately chose to forgive when you were wronged, every offering you gave when your own hands were practically empty, has been carefully protected by my hand. Not one of those precious tears was wasted on the ground. Not one of those faithful seeds died in the cold soil. They have been germinating, multiplying, and gathering strength beneath the surface. And now they are actively breaking through the crust of your earthly reality. When you see these small, beautiful signs of grace, I want you to celebrate them with the exact same passion you will have when the full miracle finally arrives. In your previous seasons, long before you learned the magnificent secret of resting securely in my peace, seeing a small sign of hope would have triggered an intense, desperate panic inside you. You would have taken that tiny green shoot and tried to aggressively pull it out of the ground to make it grow faster, inadvertently destroying the blessing you were so desperately trying to secure. You would have seen a cracked door and immediately tried to kick it entirely open with your own exhausted human strength. But you are completely different now, because your heart is permanently anchored in my unshakable peace. You can look at these preliminary signs of favor without feeling the frantic, overwhelming need to force the final outcome. You can peacefully watch the tide of my goodness slowly rushing in without desperately trying to control the speed of the waves. You are finally allowing me to be the author, the orchestrator, and the perfect finisher of your faith. You are perfectly content to simply stand back and watch my powerful hand move gracefully on your behalf. The defeated enemy will try one last tactic as these beautiful signs begin to multiply around you. He will try to convince you that this is nothing but a cruel trick. He will whisper that you should protect your fragile heart, assume the absolute worst, and expect these new opportunities to fail, just like the old ones did. He wants you to cautiously temper your excitement, so you do not get your hopes up, telling you disappointment is inevitable. But I am fiercely commanding you today to let your hopes rise exactly as high as the heavens. Do not shrink back into the cold shadows of protective cynicism. Allow the raw, uncontainable excitement to bubble up and completely overflow from your spirit. The subtle shifts in your atmosphere are actively picking up incredible speed with every passing hour. What started as a gentle breeze is rapidly turning into a mighty rushing wind of divine favor. The isolated drops of rain on your parched ground are actively giving way to the undeniable sound of an approaching thunderstorm of unprecedented blessing. You have officially transitioned from the quiet, agonizing internal work of the lonely waiting room directly onto the vibrant, pulsing external threshold of your magnificent breakthrough. Your hands are wide open. Your heavy past is fully released. Your radical joy is completely secure. The narrow hallway of waiting is now brilliantly illuminated by the light spilling out from beneath the massive door standing right in front of you. You can literally hear the heavy locks turning from the inside. The long, brutal season of loss is breathing its very last defeated breath. As you stand here feeling the undeniable electricity of my presence surging all around you, the final pieces of the puzzle are rapidly locking into place. The physical evidence of my faithfulness is about to completely overtake your life, sweeping away the ashes and replacing them with staggering beauty. But before that heavy door swings wide open to reveal the breathtaking flood of restoration, there is a profound, life-altering truth. I must finally reveal to your waiting heart a magnificent revelation that will explain exactly why this incredible wait was the absolute greatest blessing of all. I want to show you exactly what has been happening behind the scenes of your suffering. The enemy thought he was writing the final devastating chapter of your defeat, but he was entirely unaware that he was actually falling directly into my divine setup. You have spent countless sleepless nights asking me why the wait had to be so agonizingly long, and why the loss you experienced had to be so unbelievably severe. Today, in this quiet and sacred space, I am giving you the profound answer. The agonizing delay was never a sign of my absence, nor was it a punishment for your past. It was the precise required time for the scales of divine justice to be perfectly balanced in the spiritual realm. When the enemy attacked your life, he did not just intend to cause a temporary inconvenience or a minor setback. His ultimate goal was your absolute destruction. He specifically targeted your finances, your emotional peace, your physical energy, and your family, hoping that by violently stripping you of your earthly security, you would permanently turn your back on me. But in his arrogant, desperate cruelty, he severely overplayed his hand. In my kingdom there is an unbreakable eternal law of divine justice. When the thief is caught attempting to destroy one of my chosen children, he is not merely asked to return what he stole. He is mandated by heavenly decree to repay it, multiplied. Because the attack against you was so intense, the required compensation had to be exponentially increased. Every single thing the enemy touched in your life became a legal debt that heaven demanded to be repaid with a double portion. The enemy's vicious attempt to crush your spirit actually did the exact opposite of what he intended. He believed the immense pressure would shatter you into a million unrecoverable pieces. Instead, the intense pressure actively expanded your spiritual capacity. The deep, agonizing sorrow you endured hollowed out a massive echoing space within your soul. That space was incredibly painful while it sat empty. It felt like a void that would never be filled. But that deep hollowing was absolutely necessary. You see, the spiritual vessel you possessed before you entered this brutal wilderness season was simply too small, too fragile to contain the sheer magnitude of the blessing I had always planned to give you. I had to stretch your faith. I had to lengthen your emotional endurance and strengthen your spiritual foundation so that you could carry the incredible weight of the coming glory. I am not simply talking about a shallow, fleeting prosperity that the world chases after. The world seeks empty riches that can easily be lost, stolen, or corrupted by time. But the double portion I am handing you is a holistic, complete, and permanent restoration. It is the profound restoration of your weary soul, the miraculous healing of your fractured family dynamics, the complete redemption of your lost time, and the breathtaking expansion of your true divine purpose. I am actively replacing the years that the locust devoured with a multiplied harvest of joy that runs so incredibly deep, it will completely rewrite the legacy of your entire bloodline. You are not just getting back what you lost. You are receiving an upgraded, fortified, and untouchable version of your life. The influence you will carry into this next season will allow you to reach out and heal others who are currently walking through the exact same dark valleys you just survived. Your pain has been masterfully transformed into your greatest purpose. The very trials that were sent to break you have meticulously equipped you to become a beacon of unshakable hope for those who are still desperately wandering in the dark. This is exactly why my peace had to come before my miracle. If I had answered your desperate prayers on your original panicked timeline, giving you the double portion before your character was fully refined, in the refining fire, the sheer weight of the blessing would have ultimately corrupted your heart. If I had restored your circumstances while you were still frantically grasping for control, you would have looked to the restored bank account, the repaired relationships, or the new career as your ultimate savior, rather than looking completely to me. The blessing would have subtly become a dangerous idol, and eventually, a heavy, suffocating burden that would have destroyed your vital intimacy with me. But look at you now, my beautiful, resilient child. Look at the incredible spiritual maturity that has been permanently forged inside of you through this prolonged season of waiting. You have successfully learned how to rest securely in the middle of a terrifying storm. You have learned how to genuinely, passionately praise me while your hands were completely empty. You have secured your inner peace entirely independently of your external shifting circumstances, because you have proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that your heart is anchored exclusively to me. You now possess the unshakable strength to handle this incredible weight of glory without ever being compromised by it. So today, I am pulling back the heavy velvet curtain of the spiritual realm so you can finally see the breathtaking magnitude of what I have meticulously prepared for you. The resources you thought were permanently lost have not just been sitting stagnant. They have been actively gathering heavenly interest. The relationships that were broken are not just being superficially repaired. They are being resurrected with a profound depth of love, understanding, and fierce loyalty that you never thought was earthly possible. The doors of opportunity that were harshly slammed in your face have been completely bypassed, and I am currently opening massive royal gates that no human being could ever have the power to shut. The sheer scale of this double portion is going to completely overwhelm your human logic. It will leave the cynical people who doubted you standing in absolute stunned silence. Those who watched you walk through the barren wilderness and whispered that you were foolish for holding on to hope are about to witness a spectacular display of my divine favor. This level of restoration cannot possibly be explained away by luck, coincidence, or human effort. The compensation for your bitter tears is so massive, so intricately detailed, and so perfectly tailored to the deepest unspoken desires of your heart that every single agonizing moment of your painful delay will instantly make perfect sense. Let this profound realization wash over you right now, like a wave of warm, healing water. Allow a deep, holy awe to completely fill your lungs. You were never forgotten. You were never abandoned in the cold dark. You were being meticulously, lovingly prepared to become a living, breathing testament of my restorative power. As this magnificent revelation sinks into the deepest parts of your weary soul, let your heart swell with an overwhelming, radiant gratitude. You have beautifully survived the most difficult, grueling chapter of your entire life. You have walked faithfully through the valley of the shadow, and you have emerged on the other side with a faith as pure and brilliant as refined gold. The tears of sorrow are officially drying on your cheeks, actively being replaced by tears of profound, uncontainable joy. You are standing on the sacred threshold, fully equipped, fully healed, and completely ready to receive the boundless abundance of heaven. The gentle signs of the shift you have been noticing in your atmosphere are about to radically accelerate. Brace yourself. My deeply loved child, the subtle breeze of my favor is actively turning into a mighty rushing wind. The time for quiet, patient waiting has officially come to a glorious end. The deep internal preparation is complete. The heavenly decree for your complete restoration has been signed by my own hand, and the heavy locks on the floodgates are breaking entirely apart right now. Can you hear that magnificent sound? My child. It is the sound of abundance rushing forward with an absolute unstoppable velocity. The heavy iron gates that held back your breakthrough have not simply been unlocked. They have been completely shattered by the sheer force of my spoken word. The floodgates of heaven are swinging wide open, and the immense stored-up reservoir of your double portion is actively pouring down upon your life. I want you to stand perfectly still and let the beautiful reality of this moment wash entirely over you. There is absolutely no human force, no earthly economy, and no spiritual enemy that can dam up the river of my goodness when my appointed time for your vindication has officially arrived. The enemy is watching in absolute terrified defeat as the very things he stole from you are forcibly taken from his grip and violently returned to your hands. He tried to build massive walls to keep you isolated in the dark, but those walls are currently dissolving like paper in a raging river. The restoration I am releasing right now does not trickle in slowly. It does not hesitate, and it does not require your exhausting effort to maintain it. It is a massive, overwhelming tidal wave of divine favor, and it is sweeping away every single remnant of the ashes you have been sitting in for so long. Look closely at your hands. Look at the areas of your life that were previously marked by severe, agonizing drought. The lost resources you wept over in the middle of the night. The finances that evaporated the investments of your precious time and energy that seemed entirely wasted are actively returning to you right now. But they are not returning in their original limited form. They are flooding back to you with the massive, uncontainable compound interest of the spiritual realm. What you lost is being aggressively multiplied, bringing an abundance that completely shatters human logic and mathematical probability. Provision is going to begin pursuing you. You will no longer have to frantically chase down opportunities because massive, unexpected blessings are now actively tracking you down. And it is not merely the financial or material resources that are overflowing. I am breathing miraculous, vibrant life directly into the broken, shattered relationships that you thought were permanently dead. I am melting away the thick, cold ice of bitter misunderstandings. I am restoring love, deep loyalty, and profound connection to your family and your friendships. The incredibly sharp sting of the betrayal you endured is being completely washed away by a stunning wave of reconciliation and fierce protective grace. The heavy, intimidating doors that were violently slammed in your face during your wilderness season are now being blown completely off their hinges. You used to stand outside those doors knocking until your knuckles bled, begging for just a small sliver of an opportunity. But now, Those who previously rejected you will actively seek you out. The tables are entirely turning in your favor. Your name is being spoken in rooms you have not yet entered, and divine appointments are being rapidly scheduled on your behalf by my own hand. This is the breathtaking, explosive joy of my vindication. You are stepping fully into the brilliant, blinding light of a promise fulfilled. Every single tear you cried in secret is currently being permanently eclipsed by the overwhelming, undeniable reality of my absolute faithfulness. I want you to remember the darkest nights of your waiting, when the lying voices told you I had forgotten my covenant with you. Look at the staggering beauty surrounding you right now, and know with every fiber of your being that I am not a man that I should lie, nor the Son of Man that I should ever change my mind. When I speak a promise over your life, I watch over that word with a fierce, burning jealousy until it is perfectly and entirely accomplished. As this breathtaking flood of restoration fully overtakes your reality, a stunning, profound realization is going to completely overwhelm your spirit. You are going to look around at the sheer magnitude of the blessing, at the incredible depth of the joy currently filling your chest, and you will suddenly understand that this double portion was absolutely worth every single agonizing second of the painful delay. The years of lonely waiting, the desperate prayers, the terrifying moments when you thought you were completely out of strength, they are all instantly fading into the distant background, completely swallowed up by the immense glory of this present victory. You would willingly walk through that entire dark valley 100 times over, just to experience the incredible explosive joy of this specific morning. Your heart is going to beat with a wild, uncontainable excitement as you realize that the best days of your life are not permanently behind you, as the enemy so desperately tried to convince you. Your absolute best days are happening right now, in this very second, actively unfolding right in front of your newly awakened spiritual eyes. The sheer volume of this blessing is designed to completely take your breath away. It is meant to leave you entirely speechless, dropping to your knees in profound, reverent awe of what your Heavenly Father can accomplish in a single appointed moment. But even as you stand here, completely drenched in the beautiful downpour of this multiplied harvest feeling, the heavy, glorious weight of your vindicated dreams, finally resting in your open hands, I need you to remember one vital grounding truth. I want you to hold this specific truth close to your fiercely beating heart so that the massive tide of these blessings never sweeps you away from your true foundation. As you celebrate the restored finances, the healed relationships, the open doors, and the stunning public vindication, I want you to gently look past all of those beautiful, shining things. Look directly back into my eyes. The physical restoration is absolutely magnificent, and I want you to thoroughly, passionately enjoy every single drop of it. But never forget that the greatest, most profound miracle of this entire journey did not happen today, when the massive floodgates finally opened. The absolute greatest miracle occurred in the deepest, darkest part of the midnight hour, long before there was any physical evidence of this staggering harvest. The true miracle was the unshakable, supernatural peace you found in me while you were still standing in the barren dirt. It was the incredible transformation of your own heart, the beautiful moment you learned to entirely trust my character even when you could not trace my hand. If you had simply received all these beautiful blessings without first securing that profound internal peace, this massive abundance would have eventually become a terrifying, heavy burden. But because you learned how to be completely, entirely satisfied by my comforting presence, while your hands were completely empty, you are now eternally equipped to handle these incredible gifts when your hands are overflowing. Your joy is completely secure because it is not actually anchored to the breathtaking miracles you are currently witnessing. It is permanently anchored to the miracle worker who is holding your hand. This beautiful, peaceful anchor is exactly what will keep your soul beautifully steady as the spectacular rush of the double portion fully washes over your life. You are completely safe to celebrate, my precious child. You are completely free to laugh out loud to weep hot tears of overwhelming joy, and to lift your hands in triumphant, unconditional victory, because you know exactly who sustained you through the terrifying fire. The season of grieving has been officially permanently closed by the gavel of heaven. And as you stand here fully enveloped in this glorious, unprecedented season of overwhelming restoration, completely amazed by the sheer magnitude of what I have done, I want to give you one final deeply intimate invitation. It is an invitation that will beautifully secure your vibrant future, long after the initial shock of this magnificent miracle has gracefully settled into your daily reality. That invitation is simple, yet it carries the absolute power to secure your heart for eternity. I am inviting you to take your eyes off the breathtaking harvest that is currently flooding your life and gently lift your gaze back to my face. The restoration is magnificent, and I take profound delight in watching you experience the joy, the relief, and the overwhelming vindication it brings. But my beloved child, I want your heart to gracefully transition from celebrating the miracle to intensely worshiping the miracle worker. The beautiful things currently filling your hands, the repaired relationships, the multiplied finances, the newly opened doors, are all temporary physical manifestations of my love. They are meant to bless you, to bring hope, comfort, and encouragement into your daily life. But they must never replace me as the supreme desire of your soul. I want your worship to reach a depth that goes far beyond your earthly gratitude. I want you to love me, not just for what my hand has freely given you, but entirely for who I am. This is the ultimate soaring peak of your emotional and spiritual journey. This is the place of complete, unshakable peace and absolute trust, where the enemy can never, ever reach you again. You see, human nature tends to view the arrival of the promised blessing as the grand finale. The world tells you that once you finally receive the double portion, you cross a finish line, the struggle ends, and you can simply sit back in comfortable independence. But in my kingdom, the double portion is not the finish line at all. It is merely the beautiful golden threshold into an entirely new, profoundly deeper, and far more intimate chapter of your relationship with me. This massive restoration is not meant to make you independent. It is specifically designed to draw you into a breathtaking dependence on my eternal presence. My eternal unwavering presence must take absolute priority over your beautifully restored earthly circumstances. Your faith journey is moving from fear and struggle toward profound peace and renewed faith, establishing a bond between us that no worldly success could ever replicate. If you anchor your soul to the blessings, you will constantly live in fear of losing them. But if you make my presence your everlasting anchor, you will walk through the rest of your days with a radical, joyful expectation that nothing on this earth can shake. I want to permanently seal a foundational truth deep within your spirit right now. A truth we have built step by step through every agonizing tear and every quiet victory of your wilderness season. Let this echo in your mind forever. My peace absolutely comes before my miracle. You did not survive the crushing weight of the delay because you were strong enough on your own. You did not make it through the devastating burning fire of your trials because of your own human endurance. You survived the fire only because I was standing right in the center of the flames with you. When the heat was unbearable, I was your cool shade. When the smoke blinded your eyes, I was the steady, unseen hand holding yours, guiding you forward one fragile step at a time. I was actively protecting your core values of faith, hope, love, grace, and mercy when the world was trying to strip them away. Because you found me in the absolute darkest, most terrifying midnight of your soul, you will never lose me in the bright, blinding sunshine of your newly restored days. The peace that sustained you when your hands were completely empty is the exact same peace that will keep you beautifully grounded, Now that your hands are overflowing with abundance, I am placing a divine weight of glory upon your life. And because of the intense, painful cultivation you willingly endured, your foundation will not crack under the pressure. You are spiritually mature. You have been beautifully refined. You have learned the profound beauty of patience, humility, compassion, and generosity through the things you suffered. The pain was a severe, demanding teacher, but it has produced a masterpiece of resilience within your heart. As you step fully into this vibrant, breathtaking new chapter, I am issuing a powerful, deeply intimate invitation to continue walking closely by my side. Do not let the comfort of this new season lull your fierce faith to sleep. Do not let the noise of your sudden success drown out the gentle, quiet whispers of my voice that you learn to hear so clearly in the silent wilderness. I want our daily conversations to continue. I want you to bring me your small joys, your passing thoughts, and your quiet moments of gratitude with the exact same desperate passion you used when bringing me your broken heart. Let your faith remain just as steadfast, just as incredibly fierce, long after the physical blessings have arrived and settled into your everyday reality. You are no longer a captive to the heavy dread of tomorrow. You are a victorious child of the Most High, walking in absolute unshakable confidence in my perfect timing. You now know beyond any shadow of a human doubt that when I ask you to wait, it is only because I am preparing something vastly superior to what you asked for. When I close a door, it is only to protect you from a room that is far too small for your ultimate destiny. You have learned to trust the heart of your Father, and that trust has completely transformed your perspective on loss. You no longer view loss as a permanent theft, but as a deliberate clearing of the ground for a miraculous doubled restoration. This profound shift in your spiritual vision is the greatest treasure you will carry forward, serving as a radiant beacon of hope for anyone who watches your life unfold. The world will look at your life and visibly see the undeniable proof that those who trust in me will never be put to shame. Let your heart completely overflow with worship today. Let a new song of magnificent gratitude rise from your spirit, a song that completely drowns out any lingering echoes of your past sorrow. You have crossed over. The barren wilderness is officially behind you, and the lush, fruitful soil of your promised land is right beneath your feet. I am so incredibly proud of you, my beloved child. I am proud of your endurance, your willingness to surrender, and your beautiful, stubborn refusal to let go of my promises when everything around you was violently shaking. You held on to me, and I have firmly held on to you. The bond we share now is absolutely unbreakable. The enemy has been completely defeated. Your story has been miraculously redeemed, and your future is shining with a brilliance that human words cannot even begin to capture. Every painful memory has been washed clean by the overwhelming tide of my restorative grace as you stand in the glorious light of this new beginning, feeling the warm, healing embrace of my eternal presence, wrapping securely around you. I want to gently guide your heart into a final quiet moment of profound reflection and total surrender. I want to leave you with a peace that will guard your mind through every season yet to come. Close your eyes. Take a deep, steady breath of this fresh, victorious air, and let these words become the sincere, heartfelt prayer of your beautifully restored spirit. Father, I come before you today with a heart that is completely overwhelmed by your magnificent goodness. I thank you for every single tear you caught in the dark, and for every moment you held me close when I was far too exhausted to stand on my own. I thank you for the lonely wilderness that taught me to recognize the gentle whisper of your voice, and for the fierce fire that completely purified my faith. I acknowledge today, in the midst of this overwhelming abundance, that you alone are my everlasting anchor. You are my true prize, my ultimate joy, and the sole source of my unshakable peace. I ask that you would keep me deeply, permanently anchored in your love long after these physical miracles have gracefully settled into my daily life. Give me the wisdom to carry this double portion with profound humility, boundless compassion, and radical generosity. Help me to use this beautiful season of restoration to comfort those who are still hurting and to shine your unfailing light into their dark valleys. I surrender all of my tomorrows entirely to your perfect timing, trusting with absolute confidence that you will always flawlessly guide my steps. My joy is secure, my hope is restored, and my heart is completely yours today and for all eternity. In your holy, precious, and magnificent name, I pray. Amen.